Hey everyone, Tutin back from Spyral Gameplay and a deck tech for my favorite festival so far, the Limit 1 Festival. This is really the first festival where Spyral's not only playable, it's good. So the fun thing about this festival is every card's limited to one, and Spyral is good in this festival because generally speaking, Spyral only ran one of for most of its core engine regardless. So obviously in the regular format, if we could run more than one quick fix, we would. It'd be broken, but we would. But cards like Agent and Drone are often optimally good at just one copy apiece, except in some variations of Pure. Master Plan we only ran two of because of Magician Souls. With only one Magician Souls in this format, one Master Plan's optimal anyhow. And obviously Last Resort and Sleeper are garnets or bricks that you don't want to run more than one of anyhow. So the real hits to the engine are the hits to Resort and Rescue Mission. Resort, obviously, it's just a card you could run 10 resorts if you could. It's a generic Rhoda and protection, but the more painful hit is sometimes you draw your resort when you already have your Master Plan in rotation, and or you have an ability to get Master Plan in rotation, and you can't trigger her graveyard effect for that reason. So that sucks sometimes. But that's like the biggest downside. But though, if you do run into that issue, if you really need to resolve Master Plan's graveyard effect, maybe to search a sleeper to get an OTK through, if you have the capability, you can unicorn back your resort by pitching your rescue mission back Master Plan, link off to an Axis Code Talker, and then you can search your resort in your sleeper, and that would work. It's this a little funny trick I'm gonna let you guys in on. But yeah, the main thing is Rescue Mission at 1 is a really big hit because it lowers the ceiling of your going first combo plays. Without 3 rescue missions, you can't really consistently set up any of the boards we've talked about in the past. You can't really set up Trigate Wizard with only 1 rescue. With Hulk Band, obviously you're not really setting up really strong in boards on just 1 rescue mission. Like you can't get into an easy synchro line with a Hulk Firebreaks anymore, and 1 rescue mission lowers that ceiling even further. You can't like rescue mission on your opponent's turn to summon an agent and make Barone. That stuff's way out the window with only 1 rescue. But, and this is something you might be able to tell by looking at the deck so far, 1 rescue is perfectly fine for a going second deck. So when you're going second, you really only need 1 rescue. Like let's say you resolve Helix, summon Master Plan. If you search that rescue, that's enough for an Axis Code Talker and a sleeper search, right? You link that Helix and Master Plan off to a Unicorn, spin one of your opponent's cards, discard Rescue, rescue back Master Plan, search, Assault. Because you linked off Master Plan, if you didn't draw your resort, you can go search your sleeper and your resort, and that's enough to OTK, right? You got an Access Code and a sleeper, that's it. You don't even need Last Resort going second. You can just pop your resort for your sleeper effect if you need it, and just attack over for game. So a going second deck really benefits from only having 1 rescue mission anyhow. It's 2 less bricks, which is fun, and it's just really good at killing people. And also, importantly, this format's way less consistent. People are setting up, broken inboards at a way lower rate. Games are going more than 1 turn. It's just a way slower format. And in those scenarios, a going second deck's way better. Drawing that extra card's really good. You can see some other going second cards in that same vein. Effect Veiler, Maxi, Ash, Impermanence, all very good hand traps. I'm also running the Nibiru. This is kind of cuttable, but it's been good for me so far. It might be good for me later. But yeah, if you were going to cut one of these hand traps, the Nibiru would be the first one. I'm also running some good going second staples like Pancratops, amazing card when you're going second. This card's been really performing well for me. I've even lost games because I misplayed it. It's just been really good. Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Duster, and Twin Twister are very good. You might notice the lack of a Lightning Storm while I'm listing these sweepers. It's probably still reasonable to run Lightning Storm, but I got burned on it multiple times where I was playing Dangers and drawing cards, or playing Magician Souls and drawing cards, and I would draw a Lightning Storm after I already committed a monster or a Spyral Resort or whatever to the field, and then I can't activate it, and it sucks. So it's probably still good to play just because you can draw in your opening 6, but I've been enjoying Raigeki and the Feather Duster and Twin Twisters a bit more. Also running Triple Tactics Town, an amazing going second card, pot agreed most of the time. And yeah, outside of the going second cards, we have the Dark Danger Core, something you might be familiar with. I run it in most of my combo decks regardless, though I am running Armageddon Knight, who I've cut sometimes, and Dark Grepher, who I cut sometimes, because you're hurting for starters, and you're hurting for ways to get Master Plan in the graveyard with only 1 Magician Souls, and not very many good Spyral setups, because you're only running 1 of each Spyral, so these are really good ways to get Master Plan in the graveyard. And because of these cards, we're not only running the good dangers, Jackalope, Nessie, Tsuchinoko, the ones you would run regardless, but we're also running the bad dangers. Chupacabra and Mothman are interesting because not only are they dangers, which in in this format, dangers are way better than they usually are because they're generically good extenders and starters, which is why Spyral runs them. But everyone's running them right now because they're drawing you closer to your actual cards that you're limited on playing while putting material on the field, maybe breaking boards. Speaking of that, the dangers are generally these are bad dangers because they don't automatically hit the board, and their secondary effects aren't that good. But they're level 4, which is important because now Armageddon Knight, summon Armageddon Knight, bin Master Plan, blind fire a danger. If it hits the field, you have a Dugaris set up, and that's full combo for an OTK line. You don't really need anything else. So it's really good to have these guys just as ways to make your Armageddon Knight and your Griffer even better. Speaking of making those guys better, Zephyros. It's important to have a target besides Master Plan when you're running Dark Grepher and Armageddon Knight. Now, I'll show you another target you could be running in a little bit, but Zephyros is the best generic target because it lets you recycle your dangers to get more draws, lets you recycle your resort to get another Spyral search. It'll let you maybe you could, if you have an assault in hand, you could just play it and then put your assault back and just get a free summon out of it. So it's really good to have a secondary foolish burial style effect target. We also are running foolish burial for that same reason, though it's important to know foolish burial can put jet synchron on the graveyard, which does make it a generic extender. So yeah, that's basically the idea of the deck. The only cards I really haven't mentioned are Bigfoot and Thunderbird, who are a lot better in this format, not only because people are stressed for having good starters and extenders and any danger will do, but if you're going second like I am, these cards are just great. They're great, even if there's effect snipe. Generally, the set card and the face-up card snipes pops are very good regardless. So these guys are just pretty good on their own. The only other card is Hydrolander. Now this card is cuttable because it's kind of a brick. It's like a second copy of Sleeper, but it's much more generically playable, and importantly, it's really good in this format because this format's slow, and the more turns go on, usually the easier it is to make some link plays or whatever, and you're able to summon Hydrolander more easily. I mean, any combo turns on Hydrolander, which is kind of important as like a generic card to draw. Like if you can just play a bunch of dangers and go into some link climbs with your Cerberus and your Unicorn and your Phoenix and whatnot, it's pretty easy to get the material you need to summon Hydrolander, and once this card's on the field, it's a house. It's popping cards, it's attacking for 3k, which is an OTK line with Access Code Talker, and that has come up before. It's just a really good card, though because of its brickiness, it'd be perfectly reasonable to cut if you have other cards you want to play. The most important card in my deck is Spyral Tough. Now, I've much maligned Tough in the past because he's such a brick going first, and all my Spyral decks are going first except the very rare control versions. And Tough is so good in this format because, as I mentioned multiple times already, it's a slow format. Everyone's like, people aren't really, people normal summon Alistair, you throw an Imperm at it, they pass. Right? Normal summon Tough, pop a card, summon Super Agent, go into Helix, that's a full combo right there, that's an OTK line, and importantly, Tough is searchable. Thanks to reinforcements of the army, we functionally have 4 copies of both Tough and Super Agent, and I guess Grepher and Armageddon Knight, but primarily Tough is the card I search out the most with these cards because just normal summon Tough is your best opening play most of the time. It gets you into your Helix a lot of the time. If you have Tough plus Resort, man, that's enough to win the game usually. So this card has been amazing for me, and if a game goes more than one turn, you're activating Tough multiple times, especially once you know which deck your opponent's playing. This card's just been a house. Really, really great. Getting into my extra deck, I did mention earlier Jet Synchron. I am running Boreload Savage Dragon, and I guess also IP Masquerena as concessions to the fact that even though I'm a going second deck, sometimes my opponent wins the coin flip and is a going second deck, so they make me go first. So I do have to have some kind of high-end payoff when I'm going first. And I could normally make a sleeper in an Appaloosa, and you should always run Appaloosa in a Link Climb deck regardless. But it's good to be able to get an Omni Negate that doesn't require you to run multiple rescue missions, and that's what Boreload Savage Dragon is. You can pretty easily still get into Curious if you need to, and it's pretty easy to go from Curious into Appaloosa, bin Jet Synchron, summon Jet Synchron, and make a Boreload Savage Dragon. That just comes up enough that it's pretty good. So yeah, so this is just a way to get into Omni Negate pretty easily on low material, and you are lacking material because of only one rescue mission. Dugaris, I've mentioned before, it's necessary for the little rank 4 dark strategy we got going on. Link Rebo's pretty self-explanatory, as are all the nightmares. The only other funny inclusions here are Selene, who I don't usually run, though it's running in very many pure builds that run more spells. Selene's pretty good in this just because it's a free way to link up at Access Clocker when you need to with Master Plan. Just it works that way pretty well. Avramax, this card's probably the most cuttable card in my deck. I'm running it because I think it's fun to have Ivy Masquerena, and I do have the extra room. But this card doesn't do a whole lot besides out Big Bunguses, and you can already out Big Bunguses with the next card, Underworld Goddess, and Underworld Goddess is great. People are running like Arrival, like generically running Adagnister because it's a one card combo style setup, and Underworld Goddess outs that by herself. Well, not by herself, but it's pretty easy to out, big towers monsters with Underworld Goddess. And obviously running Axis Code Talker as the OTK line. Something I would like to mention that I'm not running, though I would suggest you try out, is the Orcust engine. So I've mentioned a lot of cards that are fairly cuttable. Hydralander, Nibiru, Tactics Talents, Twin Twister, some of the hand traps. These are all generically cuttable cards if you want. You could just run a little small or even a big Orcust package, and it plays very well with Spyral, especially historically, like they used to run together in like 2019. But even in this format, you have a bunch of one-card starters, right? Any card that can get Heart Pour into graveyard is combo, and we have Armageddon Knight and Greffer and Rhoda and Foolish, and we have ways to get Heart Pour in the graveyard. You can also just throw in a Gear Stew at that point, and you have another good starter that gets you into an Orcust line. So basically, the minimum package is Girsu, Harpor, Symbol Skeleton, and Galatea, and Ding Girsu, and then you could like cut, Avramax and Masquerena, or Avramax and like one of your Barricade Board Blocker maybe, or Selene, like any of these cuttable extra deck cards, and just run the Orcust package with Galatea and Dingirsu. If you want on a bigger package, you could also like include Long Girsu and World Wand, and Orcust Crescendo would maybe take the place of your Borreload Savage Dragon in the setup as a generic Omni Negate. So that's like another way you can play the deck, and it kind of gets there just off Harpor in those instances. Also, I think in that setup you would probably want to run Babel and Nightmare, so you can set up your instant speed or your quick effect, Dingirsu, and your Nightmare as the way the Orcust engine pops off with World Legacy Wand and whatnot. So yeah, that's the only other thing I'd really like to mention. Like, I'm not running it, but it's a very good deck and to run this as well. And also, if you are running a going first deck, I would actually highly consider running Orcust, because just dropping a Dingirsu to back up your Sleeper and Appaloosa so they can't get annihilated by the generic going second cards everyone's playing, because they're hurt for playables. Dingirsu protects your board and makes that even harder for them to win. So yeah, that's basically as full a breakdown as I can give. It's been a really successful deck for me so far. I've been dominating the ladder. I even went 5-0 in DK's Limit 1 tournament. I got knocked out in top 8 after that, but I'd bricked, and bricks happen. So yeah, this is just a really well-performing for me list, and I hope you guys enjoy this. Let's get on to some gameplay. Alright, here's my first game real quick. As you can see, this is kind of what I was talking about in the deck tech, how you have because you're a warrior-based deck, you have all these extra searchers for cards, and you have all these sweepers going second. My opponent's playing a trap-heavy going second deck. It's basically like all the good counter traps and even some bad ones. They've got an Impermanence here and a Magic Cylinder, but they're a full trap-based stun deck functionally. But thankfully, I have all these Spyral cards, and even if I didn't have Twin Twisters here, I still had Resort plus Super Agent plus Reinforcement in the army. I could easily get into my Tough and my Super Agent, and I even had this drone and this Begrid as backup for these situations. So I had a complete board wiping situation regardless, and I was protected from Imperm because of Resort as usual. Here's a funny thing: because I've cleared my opponent's backer, I don't need to get Tough, so I get a Rhoda for Armageddon Knight, send Zephyros, return Resort, and get another Resort search off Zephyros while putting another body on the field for free. It's insane how good Armageddon Knight can be in these situations. Also, it's royal rare, so it's fun that I get to play it. As you can see, I put a Solemn Judgment on top of my opponent's deck, because if this game goes another turn or two, I'm going to have pops for the Solemn Judgment if they have a Battle Fader or something. So it's really good to put traps on top of your opponent's deck when you're Spyral and you're going to get a sleeper out. I don't even have to worry about my Master Plan's graveyard effect, because I've already gotten everything I really need out. I can just go straight into Selene, and Selene is obviously an easy Axis Code Talker line, and Axis Code Talker plus 16 plus 1400 damage, as you might guess, is over 8,000. It was just an easy OTK off just, not any crazy quick fix or Master Plan shenanigans, just Super Agent and Drone, classic Spyral combo, and it would have worked with Tough and Super Agent too, which I had searches for as well. Alright, let's get into game 2. Alright, so here's game 2. My opponent won the coin flip and forced me to go first. And as you can expect, this hand is obviously insane if my opponent has no interaction. And even if they do, if it's a monster interaction, I'm a hand trap, I have triple tactics talent, so it's even more insulated that way. But Magician Souls plus Quick Fix is obviously the best. It's even better than normal, because in the past, you'd want to draw Resort over Quick Fix because you have extra resorts, but here you don't, because you want to be able to turn your Master Plan on. But The funny thing is, like, this is why I'm including Jet Synchron and Borreload Savage Dragon in my deck. I need more ways to have a more powerful turn one. My opponent's on a Sword Soul Tenyu variant that's designed to go second. They got a bunch of sweepers. I'm going to stack their deck in a bit with Drone here, and I'm going to see a Vishuddha, a Raigeki, and an Eschatos. The other Arch Nemesis you don't see nearly as much, but pretty solid. It works in all Tenyu builds as well. And thankfully, thanks to Drone, I get to functionally blank one of my opponent's cards, which is really good in this format when everyone's on an inconsistent one-of deck. Blanking your opponent's draw is insane. But I'm going to show you how I get to completely combo off here. So Magician Souls drew me into Tsuchinoko, and that's kind of what you need to get into the Borreload Savage Dragon. I'm going to show you, like, I need that extra material typically to get into a safe Appaloosa and Borreload Savage. If I can't get my Master Plan Graveyard effect to get Sleeper into my hand, normally I drew it obviously this time, so I didn't need to. But if I can't, my board's going to be even weaker. It's probably just Appaloosa Borreload at that point, which isn't bad in this format, but it's not good. But the nice thing about this is because I have the extra danger as follow-up thanks to Barricade Board Blocker, or just activating the danger and hoping you don't sit your Sleeper, I can just go right into Curious without having to like summon back Master Plan again, and I can save Master Plan for Borreload Savage Dragon, and that's the important thing, right? Having another Dark Monster, so you don't have to revive Master Plan again and make Curious, because I'm out of revival effects at this point. I've used my Big Red, I've used my rescue mission, and I'm going to have to use my Helix to set up my Jet Synchron and Master Plan. And that's what you kind of have to do. You can kind of fudge that other ways. There's ways to get another Dark Monster on the field, but it's usually a danger. If you were being really coy, you could start running a Ghost Trick Dullahan if you wanted to go first more often, because that's another Dark Monster, so you don't have to use a Master Plan to make Curious. You can save it for your Jet Synchron. I never mentioned that in the deck pick, but that's pretty important. So as you can see, I stacked an Eschatos up my opponent's deck, which is something I can easily handle with Sleeper and Last Resort. The card doesn't really answer those very well. It's indestructible, but you can just recycle Drone and pop it and walk over it later. And thankfully, I can still set up my Borreload Savage, and I even have just enough material with the Super Agent, because I had enough to go into an IP Masquerader, which is kind of why I run it. It's just a little good insulation, a little extra backup plan if you have a lot of material. If you have a bunch of dangers on the board, it's just something you can make out of dangers. That's interaction on your opponent's turn. This hand didn't quite need as much material as it has. As you can see, I'm going to end up with an extra Spyral Tuft that I just got to search for free at some point. I could have gotten a Last Resort or a Sleeper in those situations, so I didn't end up getting them in other ways. So this hand was really good. It wasn't the best possible hand. A hand with more dangers can get you into a 4-material Appaloosa pretty succinctly. Or if you have a way to get Jet Synchron in rotation, like with a Foolish Burial or a discard from a hand, you don't have to go into Curious. You can just turn all of those monsters that go into Curious into Appaloosa. And my opponent's dead. I stacked their top of their deck, and they're running a freaking Battle Fader, so they didn't really have a whole lot going on. So yeah, that's how the deck works going first. If you get the nuts hand, but that's just the combo. You can kind of replay that if you want to see it, but it's pretty standard Spyral stuff. Get Curious and Jet Synchron, make Borreload. You have to kind of get around your lack of rescue missions with an extra extender like a Danger, and that's it. But if you're not running rescue missions and other revival effects, then you're probably going to draw either a Sweeper, which is going to be good next turn, or a Danger. So yeah, it's not uncommon that you get to do that. So let's get on to Game 3. Alright, here's the third and final game I'm going to show you. This is me going second against a deck. My opponent won the coin flip and decided to go first, so they're kind of doing what they want to do. And I'm going second, so I get to do what I'm going to do. And this is a pretty solid hand. I mean, Armageddon Knight and Mothman kind of exemplifies the thing I was talking about earlier, where if I send Master Plan to the graveyard and I get to just activate this Mothman and he hits the board, that's Dugars and the Master Plan, and that's full combo. Unfortunately, I do have Terraforming, so if that did resolve, this Terraforming is dead in my hand. That's maybe a reason to run chicken games. You want to draw an extra card or something. But I'm not bothering with that on the going second deck. So my opponent's going to open up with Shuna, which is fine, though. One of the funny things about Tenyus is my opponent only gets to run one monk, so once they've committed to this one monk, they're not going to have any non-effect monsters for the rest of the game. But they have Taya, and the Taya's not maybe quite as good as Moye. In this situation, it's probably better. I mean, they get to send a Tenyu back from the deck to the graveyard, which is going to be Adhara. And, or any worm, I guess, but it's always going to be Adhara because they can add their Shuna back that they banish with Taya. So it's going to be a +1 regardless, thanks to the Adhara. So even though it's not quite as good as Moye, because Moye can maybe draw a hand trap or something, it's still a +1 off of your Synchro Summon. So they do get to get Burone off of their Chixiao, get long one. They had the other Tenyi in hand and Vishuddha. They just had it all, They had all the pieces they need, and they're going to burn me for 12 and set 2 and pass. And that's like You know, with the +1 off their final card, off their Atara, that's pretty good, you know? I mean, Barone Chi set a couple cards. That's what you expected of a modern Tenyi deck. So I'm playing into this, and that's kind of, you know, 2 negates is pretty good for this format. So what about, how can I play through it? Well, my hope here is I'm going to drop Terraforming and hope my opponent negates with Barone. They decide not to, which it's not bad, but it's not good either, because if this resort resolved, that'd be great, obviously, but they're not going to let it resolve because that's obviously too powerful. So they're gonna negate that one. If I dissolve that, they're just dead in the water because their Chi Xiao's turned off, and I have protection maybe from their back row. If they have an impermanence or something, they're screwed. But the downside here is my Armageddon Knight for Master Plan play isn't nearly as powerful, because if I Armageddon Knight and I get to maybe blind call Super Agent or hit Mothman, and he hits the board, I can still send Master Plan, still summon Dugar, still summon Master Plan, but I can't get the free search out of it, which kind of sucks. I will get the free monster and resort search out of it, but I do get to add my assault mission, which is going to be pretty good with Sleeper. Any Spyral names I can get in rotation with Sleeper makes him online easier, and that's really good. So I'm going to blind call Super Agent, call Monster, because it's a Sword Soul Tenyi deck. They're running mostly monsters no matter what, probably. But it ends up being an emergence, which kind of sucks. So I'm going to normal summon Armageddon Knight, because it's really my only real play. And at this point, my idea here is I'm going to, because my Super Agent missed, my Super Agent hit, that would have been wonderful. I get a back row pop, I still get my rank 4 play, and I can save this Mothman for later maybe. But I'm just going to have to commit to Mothman and hope he discards something good, maybe not my Sleeper. And Agent's a good discard. If I can discard this rescue mission, which I'm going to be able to, and I'll show you why in a second, I'll have 3 Spyral names in the graveyard: Resort, Super Agent, and Rescue, if I really want to drop my Sleeper. Or I can just bring back my Super Agent with Rescue mission and pop a card. Pretty solid. And here's the other fun thing, Dugaris. Dugaris coming up. Normally he's just there to summon Master Plan, but when you got a hand like this, draw 2, discard 1's great. You want to put this rescue in the graveyard, and you want to draw more cards, and boy, did I draw some good cards. Not only did I draw a Raigeki to clear my opponent's board, and they have no Omni Negates left, I presume, unless they're running a Solemn. I draw a Jackalope as a generic extender, and I can actually really easily summon my Jackalope thanks to Rescue Mission for Super Agent in the graveyard. I can pop my opponent's back row, go into a Nightmare, or Barricade Borg Blocker if my opponent's board's completely cleared, and then discard my Jackalope, summon a monster, and like that's pretty solid. And interestingly, Dugaris also drew me into my 1 Ash Blossom. See, I know my opponent's top card is Sword Soul Emergence, so if I can clear all of my opponent's cards, Nightmare Phoenix clears 1, because I can still go into Nightmare Phoenix. Rescue Mission for Agent clears 1. Raigeki clears all the monsters. Ash stops the Sword Soul Emergence. My opponent's staring down a Nightmare Phoenix and a Sleeper with just an Ashina to answer, and that's not going to be good enough. So I'm going to drop Raigeki, and my opponent's going to activate Crossout, and unfortunately my opponent shame concedes, because I don't think they run Raigeki in their going first deck. And once you Raigeki them, they're kind of done. They only have 1 Chi Xiao. They only have 1 Monk, because they can summon that Ashina, but what's it going to do? Like, if I Rescue Mission back my Super Agent, and that other set card can't stop it, and they know if it can or not, they're staring down. I mean, they still have Emergence, so they probably shouldn't have conceded because they had Moye, but, you know, I have this Ash Blossom. They're dead. And yeah, that's game 3. And this is kind of like how the deck runs. And also, as a small note, this kind of stuff is exactly why I prefer Raigeki and Feather Duster to Lightning Storm. I have lots of cards in my deck, like the Mothman, who could draw me a card, like the Jackalope, who could draw me a card, like Dugaris, like Magician Souls, for all these dangers. These cards all draw me stuff while committing to the board, and Lightning Storm is not live when I draw into them, and I want all my cards to be live while I'm using my engine. Same reason I'm not running evenly matched. So yeah, that was game 3. Let's get to the retrospective. Alright, so here's the deck one last time, how I was running it, just so you guys can get a good retrospective. But I think that was kind of a good showing of like the many different facets of the deck. Like the game 1 was just how I could blow up back row really easily, and I had all these search targets, and despite being a very inconsistent format, I have some consistency in the deck thanks to cards like Reinforcements of the Army, Dangers, Resort, Terraforming, all these wonderful cards that search out other good cards in my deck. Game 2 was just me comboing off like you've seen Spyral combo off a ton of times, and using a little extra danger magic to get to that Borreload Savage Dragon. And game 3 was just a classic. I played through all of my opponent's interactions, and I still had gas because that's what Spiral Danger does. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, drop a like, comment, subscribe, anything. If you have other suggestions for cool Limit 1 Festival Spyral ideas, I'm all ears, man. I love this deck, and I love it in Limit 1 Festival, so it's the most fun I've had on Master Duel for a while because it's just so unique, and I've had so much fun deck building exercises with other Spyral players. I hope to see you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye.